Hello and welcome to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament broadcast. This is Nightcat. I will be your host for today, and I am feeling so much better. So I am very excited to go ahead and get into this. Let's get this production tab up, get it into position, and let's get going. So this is a game off of the Snail platform, which is a platform that allows human players to play against the AIs with relative ease in terms of setup and getting everything running. So we have our human player here spawning as the orange Protoss. Looks like they are going for a cannon rush down in the natural, I would imagine, or it could be proxy gates. Also going for the gas steel, which Protoss are doing a lot. It sucks when it happens on a 4-player map if they scout you first. It tends to happen on 2-player maps nowadays. But they are playing under the username Hyunfu, and then we have our anonymous AI here, the Teal Terran. Looks like they are programmed to attack this, but oh, they're attacking that. They don't actually need to attack the gas. That's probably going to hurt them pretty badly since they're doing it. And it looks like the human player has caught on to the barracks in the middle. And so tries to stop the barracks from forming. The barracks is going to finish. Looks like now we've got the cannon starting up here. The assimilator was taken out and the refinery is being taken, which again is a little bit of a surprise here because it feels like that's not really necessary. It looks like the AI here, which I believe is Krasi0, is going to attempt to engage with the buildings in the natural. So there is a gateway and a singular cannon here. And there is a marine here that is running up. It could just run past the probes coming after the marine here. And the marine does get a probe at least before that cannon finishes. So there was at least one loss on the player's side there. We've got a high ground cannon starting from the pylon, and now an additional pylon coming here into the main. And so now what is going to happen here? There's no real... Oh, okay, so Krasi0 is transitioning out. Oh, well, my assumption is this Krasi0, so I'm just going to call the AI Krasi0 here. Is attempting to transition out of the backs, but yeah, it goes ahead and cancels. I think that was probably a depot there, trying to engage with the SCVs, but not quite able to do so. Oh, it's so close to finished, but not quite going to get it finished, unfortunately. But there is a lot. Let's see, 31 minerals, so no money for workers. Let's go ahead and speed this game up a bit here and see what exactly is going to be happening here. Wait. What? Oh, because the factory died, there was... Wait, was it canceled? Hold on a second, I'm sorry, I gotta go back a minute here. What exactly happened here? So this is getting attacked. So it was still down to 31, like... Oh, the SCV and 2 Marines, okay, so 150 were spent, which is, okay, well, let's give it back. They're dancing around the SCV that's got 1 hit left without attacking the command center. Yeah, and so this game was posted in the replays channel as when the human player has too much time on their hands. So, looks like the 2 Marines in the middle were killed. The worker is returning minerals though, another worker under production, so... We've got a little bit of Betty Hill chase here going on. And he gets caught and killed. Okay. Gonna lift the racks, but they're just gonna burn down. The workers are repopulating. We'll go even a little bit faster here. They're just gonna take the naturals, take the main over here in the top right. Engineering bay is going to be floated. Interesting. Turrets now being placed. Even though the engineering bay is gone and had to be replaced, then it's going to be floated again to the cannons. The gas can't be taken, so the AI is going to be stuck to just marine production. Oh wait, the cannon does get cleared there, so the refinery could be taken now. This is enough Marines to take on those can. There we go. And of course, off screen slightly when it happens. Looks like the human player is deciding to go carriers to finish this off. Natural being taken, this bottom mid being taken. Excuse me if you hear some sniffles. My nose is deciding that's like, hey, you're talking, you're being recorded. We'll go ahead and decide to start to like maybe get a little bit runny or stuffy or something on you. Slow the game back down a bit here as we have some engagements happening. There was a tiny push into the natural area of the human player that was deflected, and then the human kind of dove in a bit here and has been deflected, but I think the human is sort of just throwing this ground army away in order to get a larger carrier force. Some cannons being placed down now. Looks like Goliaths are being produced, so I believe that the AI is aware of the carriers and or the carrier attack. The carrier's just sitting at home waiting. Small ground force here, taking out this bottom mid base. The mineral only being taken, or has been taken and populated by the AI. We've got some probes moving over here. A bit of a high worker count for the human player, but that's alright, 78 workers. This mid base being kept alive here. Looks like the human checking to see if this bottom right is taken with an observer. More observers on the way here. So the human player has a good carrier force, but they're just kind of chilling out. Going out with these small ground armies here. Seems like the AI is a bit unsure of what to do with its army. It's stuck at 120, 120. Okay, there we go. Now it's starting to get the depots that it needs, but it's immediately using up that supply. With its, it just has 3 factories, but... That is a lot of StarCAITs there. We'll go ahead and speed up again until something happens here. Let's see one of these. Oh, okay. Protoss army is moving here a bit. Got a dropship coming out for the AI here. Trying to chase down an observer, maybe it looks like here. So this ground army gonna come through here and dive in. Where are the upgrades? Okay, Protoss upgrades are all pretty much maxed out. Whereas the AIs are just, I think, at level 2. With level 3 attack being started here. The carriers, though, still not joining into the fight. Starport did get knocked down. And now it looks like the AI is going to try and push in here. And now the carrier fleet gets activated by the human player here. But there are a lot of Goliaths. So I'm curious how this is going to play out. The tanks are starting to get a bit picked off, but there's still 2 more there. Carriers being targeted down, they're fighting well over open ground. Some of the Goliaths are targeting interceptors, while some of them are targeting carriers. The top carrier is going to fall. A ton of ground army being produced. So yeah, it looks like with the production of all of those Goliaths now and a little bit of supply freeing up, the human player is going to make a switch into ground army, which the Goliaths will not fare quite as well against. But now the AI is filling in with some vultures, which is gonna help. Now, okay, there's a bunch of carriers. Now that the whole carrier fleet is gone, all 9 StarGates are blinking to produce some more carriers. As the AI is attempting to get across this bridge and struggling a bit to do so. Another base has been taken by the AI down here in the bottom right and over here in the left center. Nice defense matrix goes down on the Goliath. The AI's units starting to make it across the bridge here. And it's looking like this natural is going to fall, but now there's no minerals here, but there's a good bit of infrastructure up here at the top left, which could make it take it down. But there's the carrier counter going on here, and we see the Goliath production kicking back up here. So those 9 carriers finished up and now are charging in, and there's a lot of ground production happening here at the top left, but I think even if this base falls, like in this base falls too, the AI still has this one here that would be mining. The natural actually still has minerals, although the main is mined out, so a whole bunch of scouts now being produced by the AI, and 333 scouts are in large quantities, very annoying to deal with. Arbiter Tribunal and the Fleet Beacon being rebuilt. Well, not necessarily because they haven't been destroyed yet, but they are going to get destroyed. Factories going down. Now in come the scouts to try and assist with the carriers here. Unfortunately for Krasi0, the whole army is pretty much in this top left here. It's sort of entering like base trade mode. And I don't know if that's really what it should be doing right here, but in terms of like strategy to try and win, if it should have pulled back. At least the Goliaths maybe pulled the Goliaths back. Keep the tank and vulture targeting in here, but pretty fun little game to watch. The player essentially won in the beginning and then just let the AI come back into it so that they could have a bit more of a fun game. Where they're going to start off with like a really large advantage, right? Because they had a lot of extra time at the beginning and the AI had to build back from 1 worker. With enemy buildings in its way. This base got retaken. Actually, bottom right has been taken too, and now the human player kind of being pushed back. Now the top left is clear. The AI, with I guess like the larger ground army, was sort of working through the Protoss units faster. The AI actually still has a good chance to win this here if it can take these carriers out and deal with the scouts. I guess the scout army has fallen. More scouts being produced here, while the interceptors are getting shredded by the Goliaths, and then the carriers are falling as well. The AI Goliaths are pretty scary. The scouts try to rush in to buy some time here, but they get taken out very quickly. More scouts on the way, since scouts won't have to build interceptors in order to attack. Yeah, interceptors down to 6 carriers with 13 interceptors between them. And then the human player is going to tap out and give the game to the AI. Such a fun little game to watch. And just, sort of shows like how the AI can just sort of spiral out of control with its power and just be really difficult to stop if you leave it alone for long enough. So, fun little game there. Let's go ahead and hop into our next game. Game 2 for the day here, we have Krasi0 spawning as the blue Terran up at the top right of Fighting Spirit, and down in the bottom right, in the brown Protoss, we have Stardust. Fighting Spirit, not my favorite map anymore. Well, I guess it was never really my favorite map, but unfortunately, Polypoid is not 1.16 compatible, so we won't be seeing the AIs duke it out on that map for quite some time, I think. But Polypoid is kind of like, in my opinion, my very low-level player opinion, a better replacement for Fighting Spirit, as it's Fighting Spirit-esque, and it's just better, I think. Probe here, Scout from Stardust does slip in before the wall can quite go up. The probe really trying to find a way out, but not able. Whoops. Hit my microphone, sorry about that. But not able to do so. Actually, it looks like it maybe could have escaped there. The SCV was able to just get out, so it's not quite a tight hole, or tight wall, rather. But yeah, the hole is opposite of the wall. The wall has a hole, but anyway. Looks like we've got a factory opener coming out for Krasi0. And Goon Range is spitting, so we've got a 1-gate core opener coming out of Stardust here. There is the second depot that I think will seal off the wall there. Although I don't actually know that is on top, so that's maybe Zealot tight. This wall might not be Zealot tight though, because normally you need the depot to the right of the racks for Zealot tight, but on top might be. I'm not exactly sure. Tank coming out for Krasi0 here, second factory coming down, so it looks like this is going to be 2 factories off 1 base. Maybe some early aggression instead of an early expansion. The first 2 Dragoons coming out here. It looks like this is a 4-gate Goon build. Oh, well, there is an expansion coming down for Stardust, but excuse me, safely tucked back tank, getting some shots off on the Dragoons where it can. Manages to take one of the Dragoons out. And this is going to be a 2-factory, 2-shop, 1-base build coming out of Krasi0 here. And really, the high ground here really allows Terran to push units back and out of this natural with relative ease. We're at 3 tanks, and there hasn't been continued reproduction. 2 more tanks are about to pop out, though. We have the Academy coming down, maybe waiting to move out for the Academy. This build looks a little bit vulnerable to ETs. If a DT opener were used, there's no detection by the time that the fastest DTs could reach. But there may have been enough scouting information for Krasi0 to not suspect the DTs. The engineering demo is finishing up. Comsat is coming down, and as the Comsat is halfway down, it looks like Krasi0 is deciding it is time to do the push. There's a fair amount of tanks against a largely Dragoon army. The push, though, seems to maybe just be to take this natural and not really to move forward. Or maybe waiting for some more army to be produced. I don't see any command centers under production just yet. Looks like Stardust starting to take that bottom left base there. Taking a lot of unnecessary shots from the tanks as the Dragoons attempt to dance in and out, or just like at the edge of the range of the tanks. The vision from maybe getting lured in by the buildings to the buildings, giving that extra vision for the tanks since their range is longer than their sight range. Natural still not being taken yet by Krasi0, perhaps just not feeling safe enough to take it, because I thought this was going to be like a push. There is a shuttle, probably just Zealots in it, if anything, since there's no Reaver out on the field. Arbiter Tech is coming down now. Krasi0 a lot lower on workers right now, but only on one base. Okay, there's the natural command center going down finally at the 10-minute mark. A little poke attempt there by Stardust, but is easily repelled with this setup. Nice line of tanks going on here for Krasi0. 14 of them on the field. And I think Stardust really just needs to sit back, take bases, get more gateways and infrastructure up, and just be ready to attempt to smash the Terran army when it attempts to move across the map, and be ready to remax very quickly to be able to re-engage again before the Terran army can really replenish. Mines, catching a few of the Protoss units. Arbiter is out now, though. There are 2 comsats, one not a lot of energy, the other one pretty full out. Would like to see maybe a vessel come out there. I think the first starport just coming down now for Krasi0, now that it's got the 2 bases. And it looks like Stardust attempts to dive, clicked a little too high there. Lost a little bit of that view, but yeah, not going to be able to come across this bridge. Even if it has stasis, I don't think it would be able to really make much headway. It really needs to just wait for Krasi0 to come across this bridge. It wants to be effective. It does let Krasi0 take this third with 0 army. That could easily be prevented with just a couple. Could have been easily prevented with just a couple of Dragoons, but now Krasi0 starting to move forward here. As the 3rd base gets taken. Some of these mines are looking a little bit dangerous, not quite getting to go. Ooh, a large amount of vultures lost there due to a mine, but the production tab, so many. Why is Stardust getting so many pylons here? A lot of gateways going down now for Stardust as well. Looks like, so this 3rd got taken out here while I was looking at the base because of all those pylons. But in doing so, it's on the other side of the bridge now, but Krasi0's army's now on the other side. They've like traded sides of the bridge. But I think this actually works to Krasi0's advantage because this really can't be reinforced now that army is attempting to just run through Krasi0's army. There was a stasis that went off, caught the vessel here. We've got Krasi0 slowly marching forward. It looks like Stardust trying to sort of bypass the army through the middle here, maybe try and sandwich this army a little bit. Another nice little stasis going off. Only catches 1 tank and a couple of SCVs. A couple of SCVs will prevent repairs from happening for a short bit on the tanks. But yeah, Stardust just not... It really needs to just get its army together and like do a cohesive push into this Terran ball. It's not quite able to do that. It's got a little bit of infrastructure in the other main, but most of its army is going to be at the base here that, or army production capabilities are going to be at the base that's going to be contained relatively soon here. Just a couple of arbiters, okay, little dance going on over, celebration maybe over this, these few stasises, and as soon as the stasis wears off, that Dragoon just drops immediately. But this army that is advancing here. So there's like a chunk of army that's trying to deal with what's going on here at this top mid, which it looks like this base may get denied. There are enough tanks here though that this should be able to be pushed back. Okay, there we go. The tanks get up on the high ground and then those Dragoons are going to fall. Meanwhile, the army is advancing here. And this natural and main in the bottom right are fully contained, and that is where almost all of the gateways, except for 4, are located for Stardust. So Stardust, though, pushing back now. I think with getting into this position here, I sort of allowed Stardust to sort of do a bit more of a coordinated push, but now the tanks that were busy up at the top mid are starting to come down into this push, and now the push is looking a lot more tank heavy and should be able to push back these Dragoons, and with the Vulture support should be able to push back these Zealots and keep them off the tanks. Top left, attempting to be taken by Stardust. It looks like there's a little bit of blue over here. Okay, those are just mines, so it's Krasi0 sees the workers going over there. Having to pull back the Dragoons from the few Dragoons from the bottom left coming up here and causing a bit of a problem for it. And that's sort of why I'm like, if there's more infrastructure in that bottom left, moves like that could be a bit more powerful. Krasi0 starting to get back into position here in front of this natural. Both of the AIs very low on money right now, just very much constantly spending and throwing units at each other. Selected Wraith here getting a few repairs before going off. Yeah, this is a large tank army, going to be able to leapfrog across this bridge here. And now the Forge under fire, but almost all of the upgrades were obtained except for Shields level 3, but Shields, not really the most important upgrade, since Shields take full damage from all damage types, regardless of the unit size that is being attacked. Krasi0 pushing here now into this natural, also has a large squad of tanks taking out this top left. And yeah, Stardust just unable to form an effective response here to Krasi0's army. And with the move down to this bottom base, which I don't think is really the base that wants to be that should be attacked because it's mined out. I mean, there's a few tech buildings here, but that's about it. Stardust was able to get out and is causing some problems here in this mid-right base. But overall, I think there's just too much. The top left has been cleared out, and so now the task force that was taking care of that has rejoined the fray here. The middle base being taken by Krasi0, which I think is a good move, given the situation here, where that's the army is active in the middle, so it's going to be much easier to defend than, say, trying to devote units separately to this top left section. Looks like Krasi0 is splintering off some forces here to this bottom left, which has mined out. There's only the 4 gateways here. Now, with that mined out, Stardust is on 1 mining base, and it's not going to be able to support the kind of production that it needs to really take on this Terran army, so we'll go ahead and speed things up a little bit. Top left is actually now being taken by Krasi0. A couple vultures are going to come clean up the couple structures that were dropped by a pro. Meanwhile, this bottom left getting cleaned up. It's a really strong play by Krasi0 there. I think Stardust just kind of struggled to engage the Terran army the way that it needed to. And upgrades are pretty strong for Terran 2. A 3-3 mech army that's properly balled up is always going to be difficult to engage, even if you do it in the right way. And it's really about engaging, keeping your goons alive, and like doing that remax very quickly. Splash damage maybe could help too. Siege tanks can't really dodge storms, so I mean AIs can have some pretty good storm dodging, but tanks can target down the Templar before they can get in range. A trick that can be done to sort of avoid that is keep loading your Templar into shuttles, and then drop and storm immediately. which an AI would be able to do a bit faster, but I'm not sure if any AIs actually employ that sort of strategy. I can't think of one off the top of my head. And here we have the final base being taken down here by Krasi0. So very well played game by both of these AIs. We'll get to our next recommended game here. Our third game today here has us watching another Snail game with the player using the username Snail, spawning as the brown Zerg up at the top left of Fighting Spirit. And down in the bottom right, we have Krasi0 spawning as the teal Terran. So we've got cross spawn Terran versus Zerg here. Let's see what the two players decide to go for. Looks like extractor trick there to get that extra drone out. Now we've got the Overlord starting up here. Krasi0 positioning that depot such that it will be able to get a little bit, the workers will spawn a little bit closer to the minerals. We've got the barracks coming down. It also allows, like if you place a bunker here or here, it will defend those buildings in the event of a four-pool. Quite a bit easier. And it looks like the drone scout will see the SCV and react to that and say, okay, well then obviously you're going to be down here if I see your SCV at that timing. Looks like the human player going for a 12 hatchery with now a spawning pool. Or it might not have been quite 12 because they're at 15 supply and I didn't see any drones producing that from it. So either way, they're going for the expansion hatchery first. Let's see, will they go for 3 hatchery? Okay, so they are going for a 3rd hatchery here, and they're actually doing it. I think this is the more old style to do Zerg play here, where you take your 3rd hatchery at a 3rd base instead of in your main somewhere. It's, from what I understand, and I could be wrong on the strategy portion of it, it is a bit more vulnerable if the Terran realizes that there is a hatchery out at the 3rd, and really you should be able to tell based on like the gas timing and such, I think. There should be tells that there is a 3rd hatchery out there. But like this army here is marching across to the natural. If instead of going to the natural, it went straight for this 3rd, there's no way to defend it, right? And the drones are going to get caught here, but I thought the Vulture was going to go up to that top right and find it, but unfortunately for Krasi0, it looks like they're not going to find it. But this is one base play. Siege mode is probably on the way here. If I check research, yep, siege mode just about finished. First tank is already out, so if this army just doesn't accidentally throw itself away to the Sunkens, the SCV, they're getting caught. Layer in the natural, and we'll see which tech building the Zerg is going to go for here. Looks like it's going to go for the Spire, but the tank is here and will be shelling away at the Sunkens. This one, though, gives me a little bit of worry. I think this tank is going to be in range of this one when it finishes. Oh, okay, maybe not. Not quite able to hit that tank. So this lone tank here doing what it can just to try and shell these back, but now the human player here is now just trying to delay with these creep colonies, trying to throw up as many as they can, but this is like a one base all in here from Krasi0, right? SCV production has stopped, and the engineering bay is on the way. The first batch of Mutalisks coming out for the human player here, but now there's a second tank. Krasi0's gonna have to do a good job of trying to keep those tanks alive. There is an SCV for repairs, but gonna still have to be careful. There's still a lot of Sunkens here. You don't want the Marines. Oh, okay, the SCV gets picked off. Let's see if Krasi0 sends another one or not. The tanks, though, getting a bit exposed here. And we see a little bit of that sunken bug where the tank is able to get hit. The Mutalisks positioning themselves to be able to pick off reinforcements. Tanks are taking some damage here, but the Mutalisk numbers are falling pretty quickly there, and I think this is going to be the game. The Mutalisks are gone, and the one base all in works. Excuse me. against the 3-hatch 3-base Zerg. Nicely done by Krasi0. We'll get the next game rolling here. And our final game of today will be a fastest possible map. We have TVT. We've got our human player Snail spawning as the red Terran down in the bottom right here, and down in the bottom left we have our anonymous AI. So this is a ranked game, but I think the only AI that plays ranked games on fastest possible map is Krasi0, so this should be another Krasi0 game today. Human player going out and scouting. Getting their barracks down now. Speed up the beginning of this just a little bit into 4x here. Neither player have really found each other yet, both getting factories up. Krasi0 has found the human player, and the human player has presumably found Krasi0, but was not able to get a scout in. See what they're doing, both going with 2 factories here. It looks like we have our starport starting up and okay, that's the scout getting shot down by the tank there. Krasi0 looking to be aggressive here, sees that there's really not much defense, gonna force that barracks to lift so that the vultures can't shoot it. Siege mode already done for Krasi0. Gonna be able to, and siege mode's done for the human player as well. As human player is gonna be forced back here and forced to siege and hold a line. Krasi0 attempting to get a little bit closer to see if it can get range to shoot, but it's not really gonna be able to without taking hits. These tanks should really just be left sieged in case the human player were to move forward, so that way there would not be any missed opportunity for shots to be fired by those tanks. Valkyrie pushing back the opposing barracks here to try and cut back on the vision. And Valkyrie just chilling on top of the racks. A Goliath coming out though for the human player, so should be able to push that back once that Goliath comes out. Third factory coming down for Krasi0. Yeah, I mean the starport's down for the human player, but I think it's just down for upgrade. Or no, okay, dropships being produced, so we might see some drop play to sort of get around this tank line that Krasi0 has. And the 2 Goliaths here gonna push back the structures of Krasi0 as well as keep the Wraith and Valkyrie back from engaging with the human player here. Krasi0 starting their expansion to the other bases. We've got your typical TVT stalemate here for the moment. More command centers going down for the human player, actually. Which that might be just to get supply. We'll see what they do with those command centers, or maybe they're going to float them over to the other bases. But I could see, or maybe it'll be nukes. That does leave room, or it could be for comsats as well. Since you can't get a comsat on your main command center, you kind of have to build a command center somewhere else in order to be able to get any sort of add-on. So keep an eye on that production tab for that. We've got more drop ships being produced. pretty decently sized ground army forming here that could be mobile with the dropships. And the academy's coming down, so I think this is going to be 4 comsats here, these 3 command centers here on the edge of the base. I mean, Krasi0's been at a much higher supply for a while now than the human player, but the human player is just continuing to get production facilities ready. And really, there's no way for Cloak getting some damage in there until that scan goes off, but there's just really not much of a way for Krasi0 to push forward, although it's starting to inch forward with some tanks, but these tanks are like really clustered on each other, so the splash damage from the human player is actually potentially going to be way more efficient. Looks like we've got ghosts on the way. Ghosts might be a way to sort of push this with some lockdown if the ghost range is upgraded, and if it's able to get the cloaked ghosts within range of the lockdown before letting the human player aware that, hey, there's a ghost here, right, and you need to scan. But yeah, the way that these units are kind of stacked on each other and sieging in some ways works against Krasi0, right? Krasi0 is starting to push forward a little bit, though. I mean, it's got the resources, it's got the production up to really just be able to say, you know what, I'm going to charge in here a little bit. But we have the dropship loaded up on its way. Where is it going to drop? Is it going to try? I think a scan just went down there, and they see all of the turrets that are there to protect that mineral line. So going to try and land here. It looks like in the corner. There was a mine, but it doesn't do much damage. Tanks are going to land. Krasi0's going to be forced to sort of pull back and deal with this. And it looks like there was a little bit of damage. A few things taken out, but in the end, the Wraiths able to kind of cloak and just sort of take those tanks out. The dropships are going to be forced to return home here. But I feel like continued dropship play could work to their advantage here. Valkyrie coming out for the human player here to try and take care of the Wraiths that Krasi0 has. Looks like Krasi0's army congealing there at that choke. Yeah, these were for just these comsats here. I was thinking maybe nukes, but it looks like it won't quite be nukes. We see more scans coming down, and with those scans gives the human player a little bit more range, since they can't quite get any floating buildings out there to really increase the range of their tanks. Dropship out now for Krasi0. Joins with the army. Not sure if anything's actually in that dropship or not. Looks like it did load up a tank just now. The Wraiths kind of trying to dive in there, but heard quite a few Wraith deaths. Meanwhile, Krasi0 has pretty much expanded to almost, or actually, okay, it hasn't expanded to every base. There's a couple stray barracks here down in the bottom left. Looks like we're going to get another drop here in this corner. Just maybe a little bit more powerful. A few more Goliaths. Scan going down to sort of push those Wraiths back, which were the bane of the first drop. Looks like this drop staying alive a lot longer, maybe a little bit bigger. Another scan to push those Wraiths back. But down to 2 Goliath here. If these Goliath get taken out, there's not going to be any anti-air here, but quite a few factories are taken out. But Krasi0 still at pretty high supply, so I mean, this is going to slow things down a little bit for Krasi0, but unless Krasi0 starts to bleed army. The human player here pushing forward now. Producing almost pure tank here. Battle cruisers coming out for Krasi0, and actually the human player able to bust out into this main ground here. What are the upgrades? Looks like they're equal upgrades on their ground army. Valkyrie sort of pushing back those battle cruisers for a moment. Got cloaked wraiths out on the field, but scans going down because of the cloaked wraiths. Now Goliath's trying to rush up here to protect the army. Get the tanks from those battle cruisers, and yeah, with the loss of some of that supply, and I mean, really the factories going down wasn't that big of a deal because it just replaced a lot, or a decent chunk of the army with battle cruisers instead. Yamato coming down now out to take out some of these tanks, and while the human player here, Snail, has got themselves out of their choke, they're now in a bit more of a wider area that has like a wider surface for Krasi0 to initiate attacks from, and Krasi0 getting just almost pure tank there for a moment, now getting some vultures out of some of the factories, as well as having a pretty scary air force. Actually, what are the air upgrades? Looks like ship plating 3 being done, +3 ship weapons is already done for Krasi0, +3 air weapons for Snail starting up here. A couple more battle cruisers on the way for Krasi0. Drop did a good job of pulling enough army away for Snail to be able to push to this central position here. It looks like they're trying to get their own Wraith army to deal with the battle cruisers here, but I'm not sure if that's going to be effective. Defense matrix going down on the tank there. Probably just to burn some energy on that science vessel. Snail is kind of on a clock here as this force in the middle is slowly being whittled down, chipped away by Krasi0. A lockdown going down on a tank there. Some reinforcements coming out here now. Pretty decently sized Wraith force there. Fran the battlecruiser getting into the thick of it and going down. So now will Krasi0 be able to handle this large Wraith fleet that is pretty sizable here? Nice EMP, but actually didn't hit as many Wraiths as you'd maybe like. Forcing a lot of Goliath production now from Krasi0. And these Wraiths are probably going to fall, but they've forced Krasi0 to change its production, but a lot of that ground army has fallen for Snail player here, and now Krasi0 is able to get back into this choke. This battlecruiser needs to be careful, and it does fall. Battle cruisers being targeted down, as well as the vessel. Valkyrie gets taken out. The other battle cruiser here gets taken out. Vessel being used to give that additional vision. And now we're back to the stalemate here. The question is, how is the human player going to break out of this in a way that will allow them to sort of take the fight to Krasi0? And it looks like the dropship's just being sacrificed for supply, I think. I don't think there's anything in them there. More starports being thrown down with control tower, so we might see a transition to battle cruisers. Yeah, we do have the physics lab there for our snail player. We've got Yamato on the way. So it looks like the human player going to be able to hold the line here with these wraiths and tanks. And then while holding the line, going to start that transition into battle cruisers. But while it's doing that, this Wraith army is sort of making Krasi0 get a large amount of Goliath, which could kind of work against our Snail hero here. You can see all of the battle cruisers being produced at once. A lot of battle cruisers also being produced, 6 of them for Krasi0 here. More ghosts on the way. Lockdown going down. Some of the wraiths just being sacrificed out here, I think, for supply, so that more tanks can be produced. And now with the big battle cruisers out, I think Snail's going to maybe attempt to push forward a bit here. Oh, there's a cloaked wraith infiltrating behind enemy lines. Still alive, right up. Okay, I think the cloak wore off and it got shot down. Lockdown going down on the battle cruiser there. So lockdown going to be a very annoying ability being used here by Krasi0. I'm not sure if the human player's going to be able to push this back with these battle cruisers. The player just trying to get as many as they can. Actually, now I think these battle cruisers might be enough. There's some lockdown going down here. 4 battle cruisers locked down. But there just is a lot of battle cruisers here. A lot of Goliaths being produced, though, by Krasi0. Now the human player able to bust out again here. A lot of random turrets, though, and now this fresh round of Goliaths coming out, with the tanks moving up to support the battle cruisers to keep the Goliaths off the battle cruisers. But the battle cruisers are needed to push forward. More tanks coming up here. The human player really needs to keep that production and the flow of units to this position in order to hold it and sort of push forward here. 11 battle cruisers, 20 tanks out for our Snail player here. And here comes a fresh round of tanks. Slamming down the siege mode here. Starting to form a bit of a line here that's just going to give the battle cruisers a bit of range here to move freely and play. There's one that's very, very damaged. Will probably be targeted down by the AI when it can. Another lockdown going down, and then that battle cruiser being picked off. Battlecruiser reinforcements, though, coming in to join the fray. Human player trying to push back with the big capital ships. But I mean, it's not easy. Gotta bring these reinforcements up here. Battlecruiser's trying to push up a bit north here. See what they can hit, since the major bulk of the army was on that left side there. Trying to clear as much space as they can, but now the battlecruiser is able to get in on the tanks here. As the human player battlecruisers were a bit distracted, reinforcements are down here but not being sent out. More wraiths under production here. The battlecruiser numbers are falling, and it looks like Krasi0 will push back into this narrow choke. Goliath's coming up for Snail, but there's just the one tank ground support, which will be targeted down. The Goliaths will be taken out. There are no tanks here to siege. This could be Krasi0's break. A round of tanks that just finishes up for Snail. Gonna be able to siege up in time. But Krasi0 is pretty far forward here in this choke. The Wraith's trying to come up to deal with these battlecruisers, but there's just too many Goliath to defend. Battlecruiser finding a spot where it can chip away at some tanks, but being a little bit timid here due to the wraiths that it can, I think, were just barely visible. Cloak going in and trying to dive in on the battlecruisers, but yeah, the Goliath army there just taking them out very quickly. Battlecruiser coming in from the north, taking some shots on the floating barracks here. Yeah, we're back to this stalemate here at the choke. EMP goes down, I think it most. Actually, it looks like it mostly got the Wraith there. But even still, Cloak not really going to do a whole lot for the Snail player here. Dives in on the science vessel there. I don't know if Krasi0's really going to be able to break into this. It gets pretty far, pretty close. Snail gonna dive in here now at like 200 with the Wraith, deal a little bit of damage, pull back, make more Wraith. I don't think the Snail player can really win this. I'm not sure what you would do to win this at this point either. Except maybe with like hit squads try and like get the mining. Like, but even still, like, this turret line here makes it like, how are you going to get tanks in position to take those out, right? And then it's still got mining from other bases potentially. Granted, it's doing all of its mineral mining from that main, but it could transition. The thing is, a couple of tank blasts here, if these SCVs don't scatter, would take them out very quickly since they're stacked like that, but speed up just a little bit here. So we have the next major move from either the human player or Krasi0. A bit of an unsiege and reposition there. Another EMP and a lockdown, and another battlecruiser coming to chip away. Some battlecruiser pickoffs there, but I don't really know what the human player can do here to try and push back against this. I mean, they can sit here and play pretty defensive, but haven't really been able to get very far out on the map. The Wraith's wiggling there is kind of funny at this speed. Their APM has dropped too, like, so I think they're kind of like, I don't know what the heck to do, man. Here we have a dive in from the human player, it looks like. A lot of the tanks from Krasi0 left that choke. So the human player here trying to take advantage of that moment. Not even bothering with cloak because the scans are just going to come out instantly. Going back here, attempting to make another push here, getting battle cruisers. No tanks though. A little bit of progress has been made here. More battlecruisers coming out for Krasi0 along with Goliath, Ghost, Vultures, like... I don't think the human player is going to really be able to move forward much more. I mean... Those battlecruisers taking a long time to make. There was no, like, force to really deal with the battlecruisers of Krasi0. Now the battlecruisers coming up, but there's no tanks. Tanks have not been produced. She's now just going like pure battlecruiser production at this point. Maybe just out of sheer frustration, a few tanks starting up now, but Krasi0 is in the main of the human player. Most of the battlecruisers are locked down. Excuse me. I think this is going to be it for our human player. They put up a very valiant, good fight here, but it just wasn't enough to go ahead and tap out, give the game to Krasi0. Very fun game to end on here. These fastest, like, with the production, the macro capabilities of AI, it's just how are you going to deal with that? Like, you've got to hit, I guess, the mining centers, but much easier said than done. I want to thank everybody for tuning in for this week's cast. We really appreciate the support. Again, there is like the Patreon that you can support and all of that. Links in the description below. And thank you everybody again for tuning in. Until next time, take care everybody.